I have miles and miles ahead of me, tales to listen to, time to spend. Up ahead, the road is bending. Wonder what's around the bend.
Hello, I'm Charles Kuralt. We're off again to meet a few people on the back roads of America. These are people you know, not from the front pages. They've never been on the front pages. They're people you know from next door and down the block. Their stories are some of my favorites from 25 years on the road. Traveling the back roads of this country is a little like prospecting for gold. Keep at it and you'll turn up a nugget by and by. Take Earl McConnell of Gardner, Montana. He has kept at it, prospecting that is, and he's happy to have found lots of nuggets. We were happy to have found him. And in Bynum, Montana, we were happy to have found Ira Perkins, who spent 53 years teaching in the same little schoolhouse.
A direct object is a word coming in a sentence. It means the same. No.
What is a subject? Tell me that.
A subject is a word used in a sentence to tell what the sentence is about.
That's better.
He is no nugget. Where dedication is concerned, Ira Perkins is the mother lode. Of course, even prospectors for gold have to look up once in a while, and in New Mexico we will. How could we not look up at such a sight as this? But first to Arizona. Gold has been on our minds. It was on other minds too, centuries ago. In 1540, Francisco Vasquez de Coronado and 300 Spanish conquistadors set out from Mexico to explore the unknown land to the north. They were looking for the 7 cities of Cibola, where they had been told they would find mountains of silver and gold. Instead, they found something richer, the timeless beauty of the American Southwest.
Here they were, out here exploring an enormous area of what is now the United States, 80 years before Plymouth Rock. This is the most neglected chapter of our history. I think the Spaniards have gotten shortchanged.
Stuart Udall, Secretary of the Interior under Presidents Kennedy and Johnson, was born in St. John's, Arizona. As a boy, he learned that Coronado's expedition had passed nearby centuries before. That caught his imagination.
Desert varnish. When I first began studying Coronado's trail and trying to reconstruct the history, the thing that blew my mind was that they went through the backcountry, and that in Arizona and New Mexico in particular, that the landscapes were there untouched, and that if Coronado could come back and ride through this whole region, he would recognize where he was every step of the way almost, because there's been so little development. There are very few places today where the early settlers and early explorers could come back and they would readily recognize where they were. Coronado would, there's no doubt in my mind about it.
To let others see something of what Coronado saw, Stuart Udall led a weekend expedition for the Heard Museum of Phoenix.
There's a few times in a person's life when you feel that you're walking on historical grounds.
This is the valley that Coronado came up.
In the old chronicles, there are clues to the exact route the Spanish followed. The mountains they passed are unchanged, and the rivers they crossed are still running wild.
There was a small
the
running stream then.
crossing of the White River was recorded by Coronado's men. They called it the River of Rafts. This was...
Coronado's men described the clear, fresh water of the river. They wrote that the grassy banks reminded them of the River Castile back home. Coronado, following Indian trails, crossed the river where the Indians did and frequently camped in Indian campgrounds. Udall wanted his group to see such an Indian campground near the river.
They also, you know, they had to have shelters in places if the weather was inclement. So when they had time to waste, waiting for the river to go down, they would make their markings and maybe fix up a shelter.
Coronado himself might have seen these markings.
Oh, really? Little small one? Yeah. One could imagine these are arrows.
After a march of nearly 6 months, the conquistadors came at last to a settled place, the Zuni village of Hawiku. But they found no gold there, and no silver, and emphatically, no welcome. The arrows and rocks of the Zuni were no match for the armor and muskets of the Spanish. This was the first fight between Europeans and Americans in what is now the United States.
Anyway, this was the village, one of the main villages in the Zuni, which was called Hawiku. And then there's another village.
It was a Spanish victory, but the Spanish are gone. The Zuni are still here. Coronado and his horsemen searched for the 7 cities of gold for 2 more years. They traveled 4,000 miles. They found not so much as a gold nugget. They returned to Mexico in disgrace.
The great irony of Coronado's failure was that he didn't find gold, and so he was written off as a poor leader. But they found the most scenic, greatest scenic wonders in the world, some of them, the Grand Canyon. They found the Kansas heartland, where the richest agricultural lands. This is a kind of gold. This country it would be to some people God-forsaken, bleak, and yet it has an extraordinary beauty. And Ansel Adams, the great photographer, when he made his first trip to New Mexico about 50 years ago, he wrote these words about this part of the American earth. It is all very beautiful and magical here, a quality which cannot be described. The skies and land are so enormous, and the detail so precise and exquisite, that wherever you are isolated in a glowing world between the macro and the micro, where everything is sidewise under you and over you, and the clock stopped long ago.
Bynum, Montana. I'll always be glad we got there in time to see Ira Perkins at work in the old schoolhouse, teaching the country kids who came hurrying in from the school bus. He was about to retire when we met him, but still, he was nimble on his feet. He always started the school day with dancing to get the blood circulating and teach the social graces. Ira Perkins said he wanted to teach the country kids things they'd need to know when they went to town. So the day started with dancing.
The 8th grade, line along here.
One grade read history while another grade did math at the blackboard.
What's the matter, L1? I thought you told me a second ago if you found the area, you multiplied the length times the width.
I forgot the 0.
Oh, you forgot the 0. 50 square meters. I hitchhiked up here from Great Falls when there were about 100 people for every job. And luckily, I got this job. I got the first year $60 a month for 7 months. I got a total of $420. 17?
That was 1933. These were the grandchildren of kids Ira Perkins taught then. He spent 53 years in this schoolhouse exercising young minds and bodies. To teach here, he had to know a little bit about everything.
Oh, that's pretty good. Now.
A direct object is a word coming in the sentence. It means the same. No.
What is a subject? Tell me that.
A subject is a word used in a sentence to tell what the sentence is about.
That's better.
Everybody plays an instrument.
Everyone that goes out of this school plays an instrument. Some of them love it, and some of them say, I'll never pick up a horn again. That damned old Perk isn't right. I'll never pick up a horn again.
They play an instrument anyway.
They play an instrument while they're here, yes. They look at you and they inspire you. They're young and they're vivacious and they're full of life and they exude that.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more
None of his
perfect
students
union,
left this school without knowing the preamble of the Constitution by heart. Nobody left without having thought about every one of those amendments.
Why are representatives 21 years old, senators 25? Why is that president 35? He should be old enough to have a little sense.
For 53 years, Ira Perkins taught the country kids history, geography, English, math, dancing, backflips, love of country, and 4-part harmony. 53 years. And it was about to end. When we met him, he was getting ready to clean out his desk.
I have one grade book here of 1933. The first time this old desk is going to be unloaded in 53 years. Right face, pass, row 1.
There are tens of thousands of good teachers in this country, selfless men and women.
And that's it. All right.
Let this one teacher stand for them all. He gave 53 of his years to the country kids so they'd know something when they went to town. There are worse ways to spend a life. We heard about an old prospector down by the Yellowstone River. At the saloon in Gardner, Montana, they told us just look for the worst collection of old shacks in Yankee Jim Canyon, and that'll be Earl McConnell's place. Earl McConnell is the last of the shovel and pan prospectors in these parts. They say there's no more gold in the Yellowstone, and every day Earl McConnell, whose shoes don't match and whose pants don't zip up, and who by all accounts has been wearing the same shirt for the last 5 years, has been walking down to the Yellowstone and finding gold. He has a machine for that purpose, but the machine is broken down right now. So he offered to find us some gold the old-fashioned way. So there actually is gold in the Yellowstone.
Oh, you bet your life. I would be surprised if I didn't show you some when I get this dirt out.
Why have you chosen to live out here all by yourself? There must be an easier way of making a living than prospecting for gold in the Yellowstone
Because
River.
I'm doing what I like to do. I'm free.
How did you learn to know gold when you see it?
Why, when you see it, you'll know it. You betcha. Hey, look right there. There. Right there on the edge.
Yes, I see it.
Right there. That's a speck of gold.
This all came out of the river?
All of it.
Earl McConnell keeps his specks and nuggets of Yellowstone gold in coffee cans and Alka-Seltzer bottles. They laugh at him, but he feels he is laughing last. You don't worry about dying out here?
No, it don't bother me at all. All I'm going to do is go back to the positive negatives out there in space where I come from. That's all. I'm just going to be going home to start the thing rolling for the next time.
It sounds to me as if you have some time to think and engage in philosophy out here.
Philosophy, whatever that is. I didn't know I had any of that animal.
Earl McConnell permits himself one daily indulgence. He climbs into his old black pickup truck every afternoon, and slowly, as befits the age and dignity of himself and his truck, he drives into town. People in Gardner have grown used to seeing him park his truck in front of the K-Bar, the old man who has a mining claim out on the river and says he can find gold in the Yellowstone. Every afternoon, Earl McConnell walks into the bar, orders a beer, rolls himself a Bull Durham cigarette, and watches the news on television. He's probably sitting there watching right now. If so, we trust that those in Gardner who think there's no more gold in the Yellowstone will notice that Earl McConnell always pays cash for his beer. You can almost always find spectacular shades of blue in the sky of New Mexico. Once a year, you can also find in the New Mexico sky spectacular shades of red and green and yellow and orange and purple, lemon and lime and pumpkin. Those are just some of the colors of the annual Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta, which is a grand occasion. Get ready, we're about to rise to the occasion. Well, time to say goodbye until our next trip together. We've heard about a story up the road here, but we kind of hope we never get there. With luck, we'll stumble upon something more interesting along the way. I can see the road is bending. Wonder what's around the bend.
All these years I've been a-wondering, just when I think I'm near the end, I always see the road is bending, and I wonder what's around the bend.